Hello everybody, my name is Jackie and welcome to Prairie Sports Talk, the podcast where we talk about sports that directly impact the Canadian Prairie. And after missing last week's episode, we got a lot of catching up to do today on February 28th, 2024. So, in the CFL, we got some interesting movement going on, including a major retirement of a future Hall of Famer. And then in the WHL, the Broncos are coming off an incredibly important stretch, one that I've been talking about for the last few weeks. They did really good. We're going to talk about that and the fact they introduced a pair of jerseys, a really gorgeous reverse retro jersey and a really, really well done Blues Clues jersey for the Jim Patterson Children's Hospital. And then we're going to be closing out talking about the Blue Jays and their upcoming season. Spring training has kicked off, so we're going to talk Blue Jays. Let's get into it. An off-season full of defensive retirements continues. After players like Charleston Hughes and Simone Lawrence have announced their retirement, another surefire future Hall of Famer has joined them, Henoc Muamba. Muamba had a tremendous career. It started with being picked first overall in 2011. He appeared in 135 regular season games, recorded 610 tackles, 78 special teams tackles, 17 sacks, 7 interceptions, and 14 forced fumbles. I'd say that's a solid career, to say the very least. Muamba spent time all over the league, so a lot of fans, myself included, have very fond memories of him. Muamba started out in Winnipeg, and then he went to Montreal for a little bit before headed down south to have a short stint in the NFL. After he returned from the NFL, he came to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders before returning back to Montreal in 2018. He finished his career off in Toronto, where he won a Grey Cup, and Muamba was a very special talent. It's going to be very weird not having him around next season. It's going to be very weird without Hughes as well, and Simone Lawrence. It's going to be a very weird season in general. So many mainstays in the CFL have announced their retirement this off-season. It's going to be weird, but to me, part of retirement in football is giving the next person up a shot to step into your position. So hopefully, as we've seen these future Hall of Famers retire after tremendous careers, hopefully we will see some more future Hall of Famers take their spots and create even more memories for the fans and have just as impressive careers as those who came before them. Another thing in the CFL adding to the chaos this offseason has been the sheer amount of players changing teams in free agency. Now, I had a full free agency special a few weeks ago. I'll link it in the description down below. But another tremendous player has joined the list of players who have switched up teams. That being Rasheed Bailey, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber, has signed in Toronto. Rasheed Bailey, he's not necessarily the number one guy, but with how many big names they had in Winnipeg, such as Nick Dembski, Dalton Schoen, it was kind of hard to be that big name when there's so many other big names. Maybe now in Toronto he'll have a shot to be that guy. Last season, he played 18 games, had 46 receptions, had 508 yards, and 6 touchdowns. Not a bad season by any means. I think this season will be very telling of what type of player he is. I think Rasheed Bailey is a very skilled player, and now he's going to Toronto where he might have a chance to be one of the top guys there. So my question is, what are we going to see from him? Are we going to see the superstar that so many people think he can be? Or are we going to see someone who just can't handle the pressure of being the number one guy? I think we'll see a superstar, if I'm being completely honest. I think Bailey's going to have a really big season. Toronto was very late to start signing free agents, and that's definitely going to hurt the team this season. But picking up a player like Bailey is very important. We'll see how he helps out with that team though after it's been so gutted by pretty much every other team in the league. Now, if you've watched my podcast in the last couple of weeks, you've almost undoubtedly heard me talk on and on and on about how important of a stretch these Swift Current Broncos were on. And I think the Broncos realized how important this stretch was as well. Now, unfortunately, this stretch didn't start the best. They lost to Brandon, but then they beat Red Deer and Edmonton. Unfortunately, they lost the next game to Saskatoon, but they got back on track when they beat Lethbridge. And then in a home-and-home series with Regina, they beat them 7-2 in Regina and 6-2 in Swift Current. And then they beat Moose Jaw 5-2, and they beat Medicine Hat at home 4-1 and on the road 4-3. And the CHL has started to take note of how hot this team has become. This team is now ranked 9th in the CHL top 10 power rankings, with the only WHL teams ahead of them being Everett in 8th, Portland in 7th, Prince George in 4th, and Saskatoon in 2nd. And the WHL itself has also taken note because Reed Dick, for the second time this month, has been named Goaltender of the Week. Reed Dick has been on a roll. Despite an injury to Joey Rocha against Brandon, Reed Dick has been able to step up and play every single one of these games after Brandon. That is huge. It's not great news when your starting goaltender has to play so many games in a row in the regular season with playoffs right around the corner. But Dick stood up. He looked around. He knew what he had to do. He carried the Swift Current Broncos through this stretch. And that's not to say the rest of the team wasn't playing well, because they all were really good. Notably, Mr. Barker has been riding an insane point streak as of late. Pickering and Dvorak have turned into the dangerous combo on the blue line that I knew they could be. Galloway has really started to come into his own after a shaky start to his time with the Broncos, followed by an injury. This is a team that has so many leaders on it. I almost forgot about Connor Geekie. Connor Geekie has been just all around a tremendous player. He has very quickly become a fan favorite as well. It is a privilege to be able to watch a player this good. He has scored pretty much every single game. His defense has been just unreal for a forward. And it's not like he's been hogging the puck either. He's been knowing when to pass it. He's been knowing who to pass it to. And he's known when to shoot it. Geekie might be one of the most important pickups the Broncos have made in my lifetime. The Broncos have a chance to make some serious noise down the stretch. Not only has the Broncos brand of hockey looked tremendous down the stretch, the Broncos themselves have looked tremendous as well. They had a pair of one-off jerseys. First, they had the reverse retros from the 2000s. I will link the video revealing the jerseys in the description down below. I absolutely loved it. I really did, because these are some of my favorite jerseys from past iterations of the Broncos. They are from the very early 2000s. Now, unfortunately, I'm not old enough to have seen these jerseys actually used in a game, but that doesn't mean I don't really like the style. So to see an updated version of it was amazing, especially because I didn't know this was coming. Just out of nowhere, the game before the reverse retro game, they just play the video on the Jumbotron, just casually. I didn't see this coming. Usually, I can see some teasers on Twitter from like various people who are more involved with the Broncos than I am, just being like, "Hey, watch out for a big announcement from the Broncos tonight," or something like that. No, I didn't see anything for this. And they put together a tremendous video. And one thing I want to mention about these jerseys, they were partially designed by former Swift Current Bronco and one of my first ever favorite players on the Broncos, Taylor Vaz. These jerseys look gorgeous. And then the next night, they put together a really, really beautifully done Children's Hospital night game. They wore Blues Clues themed jerseys. They had some Blues Clues sound effects playing in the arena. And it was just really well done on the whole. I will link pictures of those jerseys in the description down below as well. The Broncos always do a tremendous job with honoring various people. And they really, really nailed it on the head this time as well. And lastly, let's close out by talking about the Blue Jays some. Now, I'm not going to talk about the Blue Jays a lot, only really when I have a reason to. But spring training has started and opening day is right around the corner. If that's not a reason to talk about the Blue Jays, I don't know what is. I am so excited for this season. I think the Blue Jays have a really good team. I feel like they should have gone a lot further into the playoffs than they did last season. After a questionable pitching change in the elimination game last season. I'm not going to get too much into that. If you know baseball, you probably know the story. But I feel like the Jays have a very well-rounded team headed into the season this year. I feel like they could still pick up one specific piece. I feel like our third base might still be a tad weak, so I wouldn't be against Matt Chapman coming back, because surprisingly, he's still a free agent. Now, I saw on Twitter that Cody Bellinger and the Chicago Cubs agreed on a 3-year, $80 million deal. That's pretty reasonable in baseball terms. So my question is, why don't the Jays try to give Matt Chapman a similar deal? Maybe, I don't know, $60 million over the course of 2 years or something like that. I don't know, that's just me spitballing. But it doesn't make sense why he hasn't come back yet. Yes, he had some rough patches last season, but when he was hot, he was arguably one of the best hitters in the league. He really helped improve the infield game for the Jays as well. The Jays have had a spectacular outfield as long as I followed baseball, which granted isn't very long, but as long as I have, they've always had a spectacular outfield. And when they brought Chapman in, that really buffed up their infield. And it really helped Vladdy become the gold glove first baseman he's become. So I think bringing back Chapman for 1, maybe 2 more years would be a really good move and help the Jays both in terms of getting some depth in their batting order, as well as helping out buff up that infield a little more. And now we gotta talk about the elephant in the room with the Jays. Alek Manoah. Look, I'm cheering for him. I really, really am. I need that Alek Manoah comeback story in my life. He had such a rough season last year. I'm not sure what it is, but he just really dropped off after an all-star season the previous year. And on Tuesday, he played his first game of spring training. It did not go well. Alek Manoah pitched 1.2 innings, gave up 3 hits, 4 earned runs, a walk, and hit 3 batters. Yeah, that's the same Manoah we saw last season, not the previous season. Look, I'm hoping this is just a blip on the road to the Alek Manoah comeback. But it still has me anxious. I really want to see Manoah become a major league superstar again. But this game has me anxious. I think the Jays still have a tremendous team with or without Manoah, but it's never bad to have an extra pitcher like him. Now, just before I finish up this episode, I just want to apologize for missing last week's episode. Unfortunately, I was a tad sick, and you could really hear it in my voice. And I was having issues talking just in general because of it. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but I will just say if I had attempted to produce an episode last week, it wouldn't have been up to my standards, and I don't want to put something out there that isn't up to my standards. But I am feeling a lot better now, and you guys will actually get a bonus episode tomorrow because my interview with Electric Eric Haddam is going live. I had a blast interviewing him. I can't wait for you guys to see it. We talked a lot about the Broncos, the 57s. We talked some roller derby. We talked some drag racing. It was a really interesting interview, and I really hope you guys enjoy it when it goes up tomorrow at 1 p.m. CST. But that is everything I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. And if you're on Spotify, be sure to follow the 13th Man Podcast Network. But that is everything I have for you guys today. I hope you guys have a great day, a great week, a great whatever. But for now, this is Jackie from Prairie Sports Talk signing off. Stay safe, stay strong. You got this.